Hello everyone, this is Udama Mishra, the DSC lead at NIT Jalandhar. We have started a LeetCode streak challenge on our NIT Jalandhar Discord server. The link would be there in the description. So if you also want to participate in that challenge, you can join a Discord server. Moreover, we'll be posting video solutions of these questions like we're doing it today for our problems. These problems are taken from LeetCode and are really great if you're preparing for any coding interview or any coding competitions or anything like that. So without further ado, let's jump on to our question. Our question is question 35 of LeetCode, search insert position. So we've been given a sorted array of distinct integers and a target value. We have to return the index if the target is found. If not, return the index where it would be if it was inserted in order. Let's see an example to get a better clarity of this question. For example, the input is here. Like 1356 is an array which has been given and is been as an input, and the target value is 5. So according to question, first we have to look for this value 5 within our array. So we try to look in here. Is 5 present here? Yeah, it's right here. So once we find this value within our array, we tend to return the address of this value. That is, like, this is index 0, then index 1, index 2. So the index of 5 would be 2 in this array, and so we'd return 2 as an output. Let's see the next example. The array here is 1356 and the target value is 2. So once we try to find 2 in our array, we see that 2 is not present. So let's see the second part of the question. If the target value is not found, we have to return the index where it would be if it were inserted in order. What is the order? You could see it's all in ascending order. It's all in ascending order. So we have to insert 2 at its correct position. So 2 would be greater than 1, yes, but 2 would be less than 3. So 2 would be inserted right here in between 1 and 3. So the correct position of 2 would be here, and then what would be its index if it were inserted here? So the 0th index would be taken by this one, and our 2, which would be here, would get the index 1. So the output would be 1. Similarly, you can see for all these examples, there are some border cases also. For example, this 7 are none of our like array elements are 7, so 7 would be inserted after our array, so that we'd see how it's in borderline case once we solve this question. Then similarly for target 0, then if it's a single like 1, the target is 0, then definitely it would be 0, according to that. Let's proceed on with the solution. So in our LeetCode questions, one thing you will notice common, which is there for all questions, you just have to complete a specific function. Like, you don't have to write the entire code. You would be given a function with some parameters, and you have to just complete that function and return the asked value. For example, here we have to complete the function search insert, really sorry for that, search insert, which has parameters vector of name num, and then the target value, and the return type is integer, which would be the index we have to return back to our main function. So like, if you haven't studied vectors and all, I highly recommend you go and find a playlist on STL. You would easily get it on YouTube. It's really such a great concept, or such a great library, you could say, which we could use in all our questions, and it's well written and highly efficient when used. So what we have done here, let's proceed on. So this is our nums which we saw there in the example, and this is our target value. So first we declare a variable int n which would contain size of this vector. It's simply like number of elements in an array. It's like that. The size is a function which is present in the STL library. So after that, we define 3 more variables, which would be L, R, and mid. This would be used for tracking the positions of our elements, or the space we'd be looking for in the array or vector, you could say. This is for targeting, or for using for that. So our L would be 0, and R would be n-1, which would point to the last element of our array. Then mid would be initially 0. We would update its value. So there are some borderline cases, as I just told you before, which would, we face a little bit of problem if we deal it in the main code. So we kind of address these cases in the initial code. That's what you do for all the questions you find here. So our borderline cases would be if our target value, which was this, is less than the value at 0th position. which means that the value which we are trying to find is less than even the first element. Then we simply return 0 because the first index, it would be inserted there. And if a target value is greater than the last element, which would be present at num of n minus 1, then we simply return n because that's where we would insert it at the last position. So after this, let's find the mid. Our mid would be L plus R divided by 2. For example, if two of our pointers are pointing at L and R, which are pointing at two ends, then the middle element would be the average of these two, like the median. So we could see that mid would contain that value, and we can check that value and compare it to our target. Like, is our target smaller than, bigger than, or equal to this value? That's what we'd be doing here. This concept is very similar to binary search. If you've understood that concept, you would easily get this one. It's basically a, you could say, logarithmic technique of looking for an an element within a sorted array. So we could see it takes a logarithmic complexity, and we kind of divide the entire array into subparts, and we look into that subpart which has more favorable chances of containing that element. So if initially we find it, we just simply return mid, because if it's there, we just get it. This is actually this code. This part of code is not needed here. I just did it because I was debugging something. The same thing would be done by this loop, and it could even cover the functionality of this, but I've written it here because I was debugging something. Let's now come on to our main code, which is the main loop here. So sorry for that. So while R minus L is greater than 1, which simply means that our left pointer and right pointer have at least the difference of one element, which means they're side by side. They're not overlapping, or our left pointer doesn't go on the right side of the right pointer, because that would be stupid. Our pointers have crossed each other, so there would be no need of looking then. So that's the condition, and we'll be iterating this loop till that condition gets fulfilled. So if our num of mid of num is equal to target, just as we talked it here above. So if this condition is true, we would simply return the mid, like we found an element and you take it. But if this condition isn't true, which would be in most of the cases, so what we'll do is that if our middle element, which we just found, is greater than target, if our target is, or we could say our target is less than the middle element, then we would say that our pointer, you do not need to be there. You just get shifted at the position of this mid, because after mid till the R, if our target element is smaller than this mid, it must be in the left side of the mid between L and mid. So that's what we do here. We shift our R pointer towards the middle, and then our else statement, which would occur if these two conditions fail, would be we shift our left pointer towards the middle. And why would we be doing that? Because just the opposite condition. If our middle element, if our target value lies on the right of our middle element, then there's no need to look on that side of the array. So then we'd be again evaluating, or we could say re-evaluating the value of mid, which would be simply L plus R divided by 2, just as we did here. And we'd be iterating this loop, these conditions constantly till our condition fails. What we'd be doing is kind of a binary search. We try to find that element within this array at the correct position. But what if we don't find it? Yeah, if we find it, it would simply return it, like this is the place. If we don't find it, this condition would terminate, and then what would happen? Our mid position would be, at a very suitable place. I'll just tell you by this condition. If the target element is less than equal to nums of mid, like we have got this position, like the particular position in our entire array, and now our target position, or target element, we could say, has to be inserted either on its left side or right side, depending on how big or small it is. It's that simple. Like, we've got the value which is closest to our target element, and now we have to simply insert it in our array. So we would either insert it on the left side or the right side. That's what we decide here. If it's inserted on the left side, we simply return L. L here you would see is that L minus R would be greater than 1. So we simply insert it at the Lth position. But if it is, we could say greater than the middle element, which we have just found, so we insert it on its right. We could understand that here L would be equal to mid in this thing, because you just iterate. If even if you replace this L by mid, it would be same thing. So the simple concept here would be we have to insert it either on the left side of that element, the middle element which is closest to it, or on the right side. You could easily, understand it and drag in it on any of these examples. You would simply get it. And was a very good question because it involved really, 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 common concepts, but it kind of we applied some things, some little bit trickiness when we solved it. So thank you so much for watching these videos. Most of these would be coming, and if you want any of your lead code question to be answered in a video format, your solution should be explained to you, then you can simply comment it, and you should please join our Discord channel. It does not matter if you're from NIT Jalandhar or not. I'll be really happy to help you if any way possible. There would be other seniors who would be helping in solving your doubts. So thank you so much, and the link would be provided there in the description. Good day.